From hundreds of miles above your head, in the silent, freezing vacuum of space, something is watching. Not just you, but the entire planet. An unblinking gaze that can see a single car on a highway, peer through clouds and darkness, and even tell a farmer if their crops are thirsty. This isn't science fiction. It's the world of satellite reconnaissance, and it shapes our lives in more ways than you can possibly imagine. Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're looking up at the eyes in the sky. Let's rewind to the Cold War. The United States was terrified of a missile gap with the Soviet Union. Spy planes were proving risky. So they looked to the ultimate high ground, space. The answer was a top-secret program with a cool code name, Corona. These early satellites were basically giant cameras in orbit. But here's the wild part. There was no Wi-Fi in space in 1960, so how did they get the pictures back to Earth? They literally dropped the film from orbit in a heat-shielded capsule called a bucket, and Air Force planes had to swoop in and snatch it out of midair with a giant hook. It was an insane high-stakes aerial trapeze act. And it worked. The first successful mission in August 1960 brought back more intelligence than the entire U-2 spy plane program combined, proving the feared missile gap was a myth. Flash forward to today, and we've traded those film canisters for real-time digital streams. Modern reconnaissance satellites are packed with incredible technology. You have your classic optical satellites, which are essentially Hubble telescopes pointed at Earth, with resolutions so sharp they can distinguish details as small as 30 to 50 centimeters. Then there's the superhero of satellites, synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. It doesn't need sunlight or clear skies. It shoots microwave beams down and creates a detailed image from the echoes. This means it can see through clouds, smoke, and total darkness. It's the all-weather, 24/7 eye in the sky, perfect for tracking ships or assessing flood damage. It gets even crazier with things like hyperspectral imaging, which can see hundreds of colors beyond what our eyes can, allowing it to identify specific minerals on the ground or even the chemical health of plants from orbit. For decades, this kind of tech was only for governments with massive budgets, but now we're living in the new space era. Private companies like Planet Labs have launched hundreds of small, relatively cheap Dove satellites, creating a network that images the entire Earth's landmass almost every single day. Think about that for a second. A daily picture of the whole planet. And then you have SpaceX. Their Starlink constellation, while primarily designed for global internet, has massive reconnaissance applications. This has democratized space. Now, scientists, businesses, and even nonprofits can access data that was once the exclusive domain of spies. So what's all this data actually used for? Well, everything. When a hurricane or earthquake strikes, satellite imagery provides the first look at the devastation, guiding rescue teams to where they're needed most. Satellites are our frontline soldiers in the fight against climate change, tracking deforestation in the Amazon, the melting of polar ice caps, and the concentration of greenhouse gases. Farmers use this data to monitor crop health, optimizing water and fertilizer use, which leads to bigger yields and more sustainable agriculture. And get this, hedge funds use it for economic intelligence. They can track activity at shipping ports, estimate oil reserves by measuring the shadows on floating tank lids, and even count cars in retail parking lots to gauge consumer activity. But this creates a new problem: data overload. We're getting more images from space every single day than thousands of humans could ever look at. The solution? Artificial intelligence. AI algorithms automatically scan this flood of data, looking for objects, patterns, and changes. They can spot illegal fishing boats, track military buildups, or automatically map wildfire damage in near real time. The U.S. National Reconnaissance Office has a system codenamed Sentient, described as an artificial brain that can analyze data and even task other satellites to take a closer look at something interesting. all without a human in the loop. Of course, where there's great power, there's great danger. Space is no longer a peaceful sanctuary, it's a contested military domain. Countries like the US, Russia, China, and India have all developed anti-satellite weapons, or ASATs. These are missiles designed to hunt and destroy satellites. The terrifying problem with this is that it creates thousands of pieces of high-velocity space junk. A single destructive event could trigger a runaway chain reaction of collisions, known as the Kessler syndrome, that could render low Earth orbit unusable for generations, effectively trapping us on Earth. This brings us to the big questions. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 says space is free for everyone, which is why satellite overflight is generally considered legal. But what about your right to privacy, when a commercial company can sell a high-resolution image of your backyard? And how do we prevent a war on Earth from escalating into a devastating conflict in space that would cripple the global infrastructure we all depend on? The unblinking gaze of these satellites has given us incredible powers to stabilize international relations, protect our planet, respond to disasters, and drive our economy. But managing this power responsibly and keeping space a peaceful domain for all is one of the most critical challenges of our time. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.